We're starting chapter 17 on birds, and we're going to be talking about key concepts: designed for flight, observing birds, groups of birds, migration, courtship, and nesting behaviors, eggs, incubation, and hatching, and avian anatomy and physiology. So let's begin here. I'm just going to go down to this first section here because it has some important things that you need to know. First of all, you need to know what's the name of zoologists who study birds. They're called ornithologists. Ornithologist, what a word, ornithologist. Remember that word. These are zoologists that study birds. There's 9,600 species of birds, and they range in size from this tiny hummingbird, which is only 2.3 inches long and weighs about, 0.08 ounces. And then to the African ostrich, which stands at 9 feet tall at 330 pounds. All birds have wings, but not all birds can fly. No birds today have teeth. Although there were toothed birds back that have become extinct, even in the dinosaur time, they had birds with teeth. Can you believe that? Birds, like mammals, you need to know this word here, homeothermic. They're homeothermic or warm-blooded vertebrates. And they can live in frigid regions because they keep themselves warm, as in homeothermic means same temperature. So designed for flight down here, and you have some things that are designed for flight. First of all, the birds are lightweight and they have a strong skeleton. See there, lightweight and strong skeleton. They also have a rigid backbone. So a very rigid backbone. There's hollow spaces in their skeletons. So there's hollow spaces so they can be lighter. They're bipedal. Let's go on to here. See if you can see up here. They're bipedal, meaning 2 feet, and so that keeps their wings free. And they also have a keel. What is a keel? Let me go up here so you can see. There we go. Keel is the breastbone that allows the attachment of their flight muscles. That makes them very strong with this keel on. 3 bones together with their shoulder bone, and this gives them wing support, and they have a very lightweight beak and skull with no teeth. So a lot of things I say about the 4-chamber heart. The 4-chamber heart that it has is very efficient for circulatory system, even more than a mammal, because they need more oxygen than mammals. So those are some things to know about birds. They're a little bit different than mammals. So, and we're going to go on and to the next here. And this section talks about backyard birds, or observing familiar birds. So let's just kind of look at them here. Kind of go over them a bit here too as we're looking at this group. And so we have there the cedar waxwing bird, the chipping sparrow. You can see the colors. I'm not going to describe the colors. Can you look at the colors? I hope you're not listening and just looking at their colors, but you can see how amazing they are. Here's the cedar waxwing there. Onto the chipping sparrow. These are all backyard birds. See how the chipping sparrow has that brown cap? Sparrows. And robin. This is a robin, and you know that with that, basically with the red-breasted or the orange-breasted robin there, you see. And on to the song sparrow. See these little sparrows and how they look brown. They actually, they sing the different songs there, but they like to get in the dust. So let's go down to, this is a Baltimore area, Oreo, kind of more on the East Coast, but I've seen them before in the Midwest. You see there the Baltimore Oreo with their black heads and their beautiful markings there, and their kind of squarish tails, Onto the brown-headed cowbird there. So you can see how it's waddling gait. It kind of waddles around. So that's probably why they call it like a cowbird. Here's grackles. Grackles are they have that bluish iridescent color, kind of black, and they have yellow eyes. So let's go on to the next group of birds here. Get there. Okay, here's American goldfinch. And you see how bright yellow the goldfinches are. And then a mourning dove. These are kind of unique. And they too, the doves, they drink differently than other birds. Kind of talks about them. They drink with their head down. Others lift their head up. And they also have these songs that sound like they're mourning or crying. That's why they're called mourning doves. And they mate for life. Starling. Starlings have these dark feathers and this yellow bill. And they're speckled in the winter. Down here we have a real famous one. You probably have one in your backyard. These are blue jays. See the blue jays there with the white breast? They look pretty, don't they, because they're blue. But they're also scream, and they scream through and they dominate other birds. In fact, they eat other birds' eggs and they try to keep all the birds. So if you have a bird feeder, blue jays will come and scream and, try to get all the other birds, attack the other birds so they won't come to your bird feeder, and you'll just have, they'll be able to eat, they'll be able to take over the whole feeder, And let's see, on to hummingbirds. Of course, hummingbirds, you can see how the marking is of a hummingbird, and they're attracted to flowers. You know that. And they're attracted to red. They have a red throat, but they love to be attracted to red. That's why hummingbirds are, feeders are red, right? Here's a kingfisher. Kind of looks like it has a crown on it. That's probably why they call it a kingfisher. Blue are, they're near the water too, usually. And you can see its white belly there and such, kind of look, pointier beak. There, see their beak. Onto cardinals. Cardinals they like to go in the snow. So in the winter, sometimes you'll see these cardinals, and they're such bright red that they show up. So in the snow, and you can see with the black face mask there, kind of. So here is an eastern meadowlark. They're in the meadows. Beautiful streaked brown, and their black head there and stuff. And here's a tree swallow, blue or green with white underneath there. These mockingbirds, they're called mockingbirds because they don't really have a song of their own. They mock other birds and sing other birds' songs, and they'll sing one and then another one. They're pretty kind of irritating when you listen to them. We have in the backyard all these different songs that they're mocking other birds, and they like to sing constantly, that's for sure. Bob White quail. And the reason they call it Bob White, because the song, when they call, their call sounds like Bob White, Bob White, Bob White. That's a quail. Okay, let's go to this bottom one, and this is about it for our backyard spot. Here's a house finch, and you can see it's kind of reddish and different colors. It has red head, but it has these throat markings on it. This brown thrasher, sometimes called a catbird because it kind of looks like a cat on the bottom, colors of a cat. And it's seen among the leaves and kind of matches and camouflages the leaves. Here's a lark, horned lark. Looks like, see the head has a horn on it, and it has tufts resemble these horns and a black face mask. Here's a barn swallow. See how it has a very unique tail, see the forked tail? And barn swallows, they'll be in the barns and they'll attack. Almost always thought they were bats, like we're swooping down on them, but they're swallows. I used to be afraid because I thought they would get in my hair when I was young in Iowa, these barn swallows, and they can be very aggressive. So those are the backyard type, are those that are very common. Let's see if I have anything to say about anything. Catbirds live in the low shrubs. Starlings, they come in big, huge, large numbers all together. And then, of course, we have the roadside ones, and I don't think they're all here because we don't see any crows. But crows, then they caw, they make a cawing noise. They're the ones that are on the roadside, and so are when you go on the roadside and you're traveling, you can see jays, blue jays, and eagles and vultures on the roadside as you travel. The tails, the flycatcher has his tail down. The wren has a 45-degree tail. The dove has a pointed tail. The mockingbird has a round tail. And the starling and nuthatcher and meadowlark have short square tails. And of course we saw that barn swallow there having the forked tail like so. Those are, we'll go over famous birds, and you can go out and see most of these just in your backyard or around or alongside the roads. So let's go on to the next section now. Groups of birds. There are 27 orders of birds. Let's start with the perching birds. Some of the birds we already went over were perching birds. Let's see here. Before we go to the perching birds, some of it goes over the calls, and I said the blue jay has a scream, mourning dove has the cooing, crow has the caw, whippoorwill, whippoorwill, bobwhite, and mockingbird mocks other birds. But there are some birds that don't have any songs, and like the flycatcher and the swift and the hummingbird and the woodpecker. We know the woodpecker by its pecking, right? Woodpeckers are very easy to find alongside our houses, right? Are kind of, and they're beautiful looking too. So here we have the perching feet. And you'll see how the feet look there with the toes pointed, 3 toes pointed forward with the metatarsals and the tarsal metatarsals up this way, and the tendon that comes down here, and then they have the 1 toe pointing backwards. And these are made for perching. You can see 60% of birds perch, and these include the songbirds of thrushes and the robin and the bluebird and the chickadee and the warbler and the mockingbird and the wren and the catbird and the martin and the swallow and the finch. They're all perching birds. They perch. And so that's about, but you can see how their legs are a little different. So now let's go to the birds of prey. Let's just move over to them, huh? Well, look at there, we have an eagle. These are the birds of prey. We'll start right there. So birds of prey, of course, we have an eagle, falcons, owls, and vultures. But vultures don't eat, vultures eat dead prey, let's just say that. So they have hooked beaks there and very powerful talons. Talons are their feet here. Very powerful. See how, so they can grab their prey, the talons. Eagles and falcons, they go out in the daytime, and of course the owl, it goes out and hunts at night. And vultures, they don't have a picture of a vulture here, but you guys know what vultures look like. But vultures, they have weak feet because they prey on dead animals. But one of the biggest vulture type birds, the biggest one that's alive even now, is that California condor that flies. They're not as big as an ostrich and stuff, but as a flying bird. Well, California condors are almost extinct, but they're like 11 feet wingspans and they're 4 foot tall, and they look like a vulture. I wish I had a picture of one here, but we had one in our backyard in Fremont when Corey was little, and he was almost as tall as Corey, and he came running in scared to death. These California condors are big, and they only lay 1 egg, and that's the problem, because usually other birds or people or whatever that get into there and kill the eggs, so they're becoming very extinct. Eagles, well, here's the eagle, the bald eagle, of course. In Alaska, there's a lot of bald eagles. We had a lot in the Midwest there. There's a lot of bald eagles every place we go, actually, in the United States. But mostly in Alaska. There's also a golden eagle, looks almost like a bald eagle, but it's golden colored. So let's see, eagles, there's also the sea eagle. There's not a picture, let's go up here, that's a hawk, but it's a sea eagle. I don't have a picture of the sea eagle, but it's so big. It has a 9-foot wingspan, not 11 foot like a condor, but the thing, it has a 9-foot wingspan, and it can pick up geese. It can feed on geese, and it also can feed on sloths and monkeys in some areas. Those are big animals that it eats. One time, one of these eagles picked up a 4-year-old girl. Can you believe that? Now, of course, he didn't eat her. They got the 4-year-old girl, but for him just to come and attack and try to pick up a 4-year-old girl, that's a big bird. That's a big scary bird. So let's talk about the hawk. There's a hawk right there. You can see. We'll talk about the hawk and the falcons here. Here's the osprey, which is a type of hawk. It's a fish hawk. And hawks are smaller than eagles, and they eat rodents and snakes and rabbits. This osprey, though, eats fish, of course. And then we have the falcons. Well, here's a type of falcon, even though it doesn't look like the falcons that you're used to, but this is a peregrine falcon. The thing about this peregrine falcon is it's the fastest of any living creature, and it is flying. It flies to up to 220 miles per hour. This little thing, it's not so little, but it looks little in that picture, but it flies up to 220 miles per hour. It dives and it folds its wings in and dives down, and it's one of the fastest divers too. And it has long pointed wings. So these are this is the peregrine falcon, very famous falcon. And then of course the owls there. We have an owl. The owls are, they swallow their prey whole, and then they regurgitate up its fur and bones as a pellet. So you'll see these pellets where it threw up the fur and bones and ate the rest of it. Those are owls. Of course, owls, they hoot at night and they have their own owl calls. So let's go on to the next group. I'm just skimming through these quickly. So let's talk about what are these? Water birds. The water birds are swimmers and waders. So we have swimmers here. Of course, we have the swan, we have the wood duck, we have the Canadian goose. Those are very famous water birds. They have water repellent feathers, so it keeps their skin dry. And of course they have web feet. And then they have air close to the skin that's pretty buoyant, so that gets them so they can float. But they also have this oil preen that they oil their skin 2 to 17 times per day. Can you imagine that? The oil that they put on their skin and feathers there. So, of course, ducks, geese, and swans here. And of course, Lord, we have a flamingo. The flamingo there has long legs and it's wades. It's pink. You know why it's pink? Because it eats shrimp, and shrimp are pink. I bet you didn't know that one. And then down here we have a blue heron. It's in the family of the birds that really don't swim, but they walk and wade. They're waders. And of course we have the storks, herons, cranes, egrets. The white stork is really known because it used to think the white stork, because they mate for life and they nest and take care of their babies, well, they thought, well, this would be a stork probably to deliver babies. Of course, that's a wise tale. We know that. But that's the white stork in folklore. So those are, the blue heron there. That's what I want to talk about. The blue heron has graceful lines there, as you can see. But the thing about the herons is that they look like statues. They stand almost motionless. They have this motionless stance. So you think, is this a real bird or what? And then when it goes, it just spurts out. Goes really fast. But it has this pointed, slender beak like that. And when it flies, it curls its neck back and its legs are straight out. And it has these stilt-like legs. You don't see the legs in that picture, but they're like stilts. It makes its nest in treetops and lays 3 to 6 eggs. So those are the waders. Okay, before we get to the tropical birds, let's go to the birds, game birds. Game birds are birds that hunters like to hunt for their game, right? The game birds are quails, pheasants, partridges, grouse, doves, and turkeys. And they go underneath the brush, they nest on the ground, and they have astonishing speed bursts that all of a sudden, when they get rattled and when they have danger, they can fly and burst out really quick, almost startling anybody around. So, and they're short distance flyers. They only fly for really short distance. except for doves. Doves can fly long distance, of course. And they're known for their white meat. So let's go over on this section. Okay, here we go. These are tropical birds. So tropical birds, get this focused in a little bit there. Got it? Okay. Tropical birds you find in pet shops for their bright colors. And you can usually teach many of these birds, especially in the parrot families and parakeets and such, to talk. And parakeets are these small parrot-like. There you see these parakeets here. And these are budgergar, or budgies, they call those little parakeets. And they come in all different colors of yellow, green, white, lavender, blue. So those are the parakeets. And then of course, at the bottom you have a toucan. Toucans live in Central South America. They have this large, colorful beak, and in their beak, you can see there's little honeycomb type things in their beak to make their beak very colorful, but also give it air sacs in their beaks. Their beaks are not so heavy. So, and they live in dense forests there. So you can see, and that of course is a macaw, and onto that family. These are tropical birds. They live in tropical areas. So let's go on to the next section quickly. I'm going to put this all on video because it's not very much more. So here we have, get back here, we have the flightless birds. So the flightless birds are large ground dwellers. Here we have penguins, emus, and ostriches. The ostrich is the largest bird at 9 feet, 350 pounds, and they can run fast, up to 50 miles per hour in 2.5 seconds. Those are ostriches. They're sometimes called camel birds because sometimes they'll hook up ostrich to pull things, so anyway, they're powerful runners and their legs are really strong, those ostriches. They have 2 toes on each feet, and they're in Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. That's the ostriches. Then we have, the penguins. We know in penguins being in South Africa, and penguins being in Antarctica. They are the swimming birds, birds that can swim in cold and stay in cold areas. The kiwi are chicken-sized birds, and they're in New Zealand. They eat worms and have long beaks. They're called stiffing at night because they're nocturnal birds, those kiwis. Kiwi, it means New Zealand, and they have very large eggs, and anyway, their wings are the weight of the egg. Let's go back to the egg. The weight of the egg is 1/3 of the bird. So their eggs are heavy eggs, that's for sure. So these are emus up there too, another type. These are all flightless birds. They don't fly. So let's go on to the extinct birds. Birds that are not around anymore. Okay, there we go. Extinct birds. I don't know if you have a picture of a dodo bird on here. Nope, there's not a dodo bird. But anyway, there's the extinct birds of now. These are extinct birds from quite, well, not all of them quite. Here's a passenger pigeon. There used to be just in recent history lots of passenger pigeons and doves, but they became extinct because they were hunted. So these are extinct within the last 100 years. They used to use passenger pigeons were common. Not anymore. They're gone. Man hunted them, almost like the buffalo happened with the buffalo. So dodo bird, what's a dodo bird? Well, a dodo bird is like a turkey, and it existed in the 1600s. Now they were considered, dodo birds were considered to be dumb. Why would they consider to be dumb? Because they were easy to catch. And then when they brought in the hogs and other animals, the dodo birds could not survive. And so they ended up, sailors, they'd stop and eat dodo birds on their way around in the African peninsula and such. So dodo birds went extinct in the 1600s. The MOA is a giant flightless 10-foot tall bird. It doesn't exist in the great auks or penguin-like birds, and they're not around. And the ancient birds, some of these are ancient birds here. This ancient bird up here, look at that. You can't see them there. There we go, right here. Archaeopteryx. There's the Archaeopteryx. Yeah, we have a lot of fossils on those, don't we? And they had claws on their wings. See what the claws on their wings are? Claws on their wings, and sometimes teeth on their wings. That's kind of weird. And crested hootsen had claws, and they were actually ancient birds too. And then the Argentaves magnificens. They were as tall as a man. Let's look here. These birds here, they're tall as a man. See this giant bird? Those are really 25-foot tall birds. Can you imagine that now if you saw a 25-foot bird standing next to you? And these were giant flightless birds, 10 feet tall, up to 1,000 pounds. So, well, that's this part of the chapter. And there's a little section, let's see, let's go to the next little section that talks about variety, design, right there. So there's variety in birds within their kinds, and they contain genetics to make them look like, they'll see, these are all the same, some of these are all the same species, and there's a variety in these different kinds. And then there's, among kinds, there's a variety, of course, that are different species. Like we said, we have 9,600 different species of birds. And the variety exists within the genes, and like a sparrow is going to always be a sparrow. It's never going to become an eagle. And birds are divided into kinds, and these kinds will stay in their kinds, like the hummingbird and eagle are different kinds of birds. But they're all, the variety brings glory to God. God made so many beautiful different kinds of birds. I like right here, what basically it says, right here. But ask now the beasts, and they shall teach thee, and the fowls of the air, and they shall tell thee. Or speak to the earth, and it shall teach thee, and the fishes of the sea shall declare unto thee. Who knoweth not in all these that the hand of the Lord hath wrought this and this is beautiful and magnificent. All of these birds, magnificent in color, magnificent in kind. That's it.